Okay. Oh, welcome to Baseball Biz on Deck. I am Mark Carmen, and with me is my good friend, Mr. Matt Germain. And in this wild maelstrom of insanity called baseball, we can't let it just sit there because politics has to come into the room. And God bless us all. Hey, Matt, how you doing? Before I go on and on.
I'm living the dream as part of an independent Canada, Mark. How are you?
Oh, I hate you. No, I hear it, brother. You're a blessed man, and there's a lot of folks here south of the border who appreciate all that you're doing, but also appreciate, man, what a great place to live. But
Absolutely. As is
uh,
America, for all their own reasons. I think both countries have something to offer everyone. So, I hope the best for both of them.
absolutely, America, America. Oh man, I found this movie. I put something up on Blue Sky earlier today, and it was America, the motion picture. Did you ever see that thing?
No, I know what you're talking about though. I remember hearing about it, but I haven't watched it or read up on it.
Oh, it's timely. We won't go into it much, but it takes it. It basically fictionalizes everything with how our forefathers brought things here together in the old US of A, and it puts people in the same time span so that Lincoln and George Washington are best buddies, and the evil king that they have to fight, and the fighting kings is something we know about today as well. So, but I don't know if you get a chance, it's on Netflix. I thought it was fun.
I'll check it out.
Yep, yep. And speaking of kings, one king of America has made such an impact in so many of our lives, but I thought surely it won't impact baseball. And then, of course, a couple of weeks ago, we had Craig Calcaterra on, and we did discuss some of the not only the ugliness that's going on right now, but we also talked about baseball and how it could impact things. And one of them, I think both you and he mentioned, and I had to say, well, surely not. Pull those blinders off. Surely not, because less than a month away, we were talking about a special date, April 15th.
Hmm.
Not like the Ides of March where there's forbearing of something more terrible, but a great day, April 14th, when we celebrate Jackie Robinson Day. Only some people don't appreciate as much as others.
Correct. So the thought was that, at some point in time with DEI and everything being attacked the way that it is by this government, that day, that special day that baseball created, after a lot of thought and effort and to reflect a little bit of history within baseball and the impact that baseball had on history, it goes hand in hand. You can, there's a synergy between the two. And that Jackie Robinson Day was just so special because of that. It brought everybody together. Everything kind of turned off, and the focus was on enjoying baseball together, all races, all, shades of pink, orange, purple, and blue coming together and being a group of one, enjoying the game for what it is, and sort of trying to build that culture of acceptance,
Yeah.
right? And so that's what it's all about. And that's what DEI is not about. Right. So the whole premise of taking the page, a Jackie Robinson page offline as part of that process. Now, I've heard that they've brought it back on since it was taken off. But to me, it's just the first salvo. I don't know because I'm not in the United States, so I don't know what the reaction was of all Americans and how, it may be different in certain areas than others.
Yeah, because we're
Uh,
kind of diverse. You can't say all, okay?
right, exactly. Like, so Jeff Passan had his reaction,
Yeah.
and I think that caught the attention of a lot of people, right? And within the baseball circle, at least. But maybe you can talk about how it's been in Florida, or in your area, at least.
Oh gosh. Well, I say that a lot of us sometimes have blinders on down here in Florida. It seems like it's even more so. I haven't talked enough with people. I have reached out to some, and folks said, "Yeah, Jackie Robinson was a great man." Either they don't want to say anything politically, or they don't want to acknowledge what all is going on with it. See, Jeff Passan, earlier today because he was the one had been informed by somebody. And Craig Calcaterra was going about this as well, but Jeff kind of broke some of it out. See what was talking about the removal on the story of Jackie Robinson on the Department of Defense website. And let's see when the response from the Pentagon press secretary statement to ESPN said, as Secretary Hexbeth has said, DEI is dead at the Defense Department. Discriminatory equity ideology is a form of woke culture, Marxism that has no place in our military. It divides the force, erodes unit cohesion, and interferes with the service's core warfighting mission. We are pleased by the rapid compliance across the department with the directive, removing DEI content from all platforms. In the rare cases the content is removed either deliberately or by mistake, that is out of the clearly outlined scope of the directive. We instruct the components and they correct the content accordingly.
Right. So just using what you just said right now, Mark, when I'm Major League Baseball and I have a Jackie Robinson Day, how is that viewed by that government?
It's clear. It's clear. Anything that celebrates achievements of people that has any kind of diversity to it, basically, it doesn't need to be there. It shouldn't exist. Let's erase that. And digitally, it's so much easier to do too. So not surprisingly from a website, if somebody wasn't looking for it, maybe they wouldn't have seen it.
Right. So my premise would be that I don't believe Jackie Robinson Day would take place this year. I think there will be some sort of announcement at some time that there'll be something else going on that day and it'll be an upheaval. Now, maybe it survives this year and it only happens next year, but I still think that it's attacked, in a certain way. And I also think that the unretiring of the jersey will be attacked or approached at some point.
Wow.
I would even take it a step further. I think they will unretire Jackie Robinson's number and they will retire Babe Ruth's number.
Oh, come on, man.
That I'm telling you, Mark, you can email me the day it happens.
Wow.
Because they want it to be so righteous that it galvanizes their fan base and the people who really believe in what it is that they're doing. That's what they're trying to do. They're feeding the machine that feeds them. And it's sad. It's destructive. And it's destructive not just for society as a whole, it's also destructive for the game of baseball. Because as soon as Rob Manfred goes to a podium and announces that, baseball changes forever from that point onwards. So in 2004, when Jackie Robinson Day began, it was a day of celebration. It was a day of something to be proud about, something that you could really bring your kids to the park, talk a little bit of history, with them that may otherwise not come up in conversation, and talk about some of the issues that we've overcome over the generations to become a better, more accepting society. So by taking it away, and this is just one example. I mean, I read of dozens of them every day that are going on right now in the United States, and it saddens me. I hate it with a passion, Mark. I think that there are not enough people being aggressive. I see some of the town halls, people are voicing their displeasure. Like, I get it. They're doing what they can with the moment, and they need, some momentum before they explode, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They get too crazy. But I think, if you look back at the history of Jackie Robinson Day, I think people forget that not everybody wore number 42 right away. Like, as great as Jackie Robinson Day was, it was not really what it is today until Ken Griffey Jr. decided to wear number 42. He approached Bud Selig. He approached Jackie Robinson's, family, and he said, "I would like to do this. Would you allow it?" They okayed it. Only a handful of black players decided to wear the jersey that year. It wasn't everybody.
Yeah.
And then it took 2 more years before it was so popular of a statement that Bud Selig said, "Okay, now everybody from 2009 onwards will wear 42." Nobody said boo. Nobody was against it. I didn't hear one MAGA person back then voice their displeasure that 42 is being worn, right?
Right, right.
So you have all of those years to this point. We're 2025, right? 2009 to 2025. And I'm telling you, Mark, there is going to be backlash if they go through with Jackie Robinson Day. So I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts are on whether or not it happens this year. I don't think that's really the point.
Yeah.
But the point is more that is the movement is under attack right now by DEI.
Well, Jackie Robinson stands for a lot of things. Number 42 was a great baseball player. He was the first black man who crossed that color barrier into Major League Baseball from the Negro Leagues. But also he was a great civil rights leader. He did a lot there. And he was just a great man overall. And the other thing I've almost forgot to mention is what we started with, and being as far as the Department of Defense, he also served. So if you look at all these components of a man, yeah, guess what? He was a diverse individual. He was a man. He was black. He was a baseball player. He was a soldier, and he was a civil rights person's leader. Maybe a bit more, but I mean, he was involved. And we should all have components that make us diverse, and they should be celebrated. But when you start oppressing people because of certain points of their diversity, whether it be their color or their sex or anything else, we start crippling ourselves as a society. And that's what we're doing right now. We are crippling ourselves. We are not recognizing and celebrating the uniqueness of each individual out there and the strength of what those people bring together with all of us. And I mean, I'm getting on my high horse here, but if what you say happens, if it comes to pass, I would hope there would be an uproar. I would challenge everybody right now to go ahead, have a button created with the number 42, put it on your chest, and we'll wear that as an emblem of protest. I mean, people will put resist on their shirt or whatever else, but guess what? 42 is very clean. It's clear. It's no characterization about anybody. It just says, this was a great man. This is something we should all stand behind. And Jackie Robinson certainly is a model for that.
That is an outstanding idea. In fact, I'm going to write people and tell them that at every Major League Baseball stadium this year, they should be handing out buttons and getting people to wear them. Why not? The players are wearing jerseys. Why aren't the fans wearing buttons? Like, that should be part of the event, part of the celebration. And they can even put the year on there if they want on the back or something like that, like just to annotate that you were at Jackie Robinson Day at the stadium on that day. But yeah, that's a great idea. I love that idea, Mark. And I think that is kind of the way of healing, right? Of trying to, and it shows strength against a movement, which is important as well. You can't let that sort of mindset put a shadow over everything, everyday life, the way that they're trying to do. And I think that's a great idea. I hopefully, somebody takes that on. I don't know if they ever do hand out things at the stadiums on that day. I imagine some might and some may not. But I think an MLB directive in this case would be kind of pretty awesome.
It'll be worth going to check and see what promotions most of the teams have promotion days and say what they're going to be giving that day. So I'll do some homework between now and next week and find out, what they are, if there's giveaways with number 42 on it. Because I mean, I think that's important. So I want to take another look too. After some of that first information, going back to what the Pentagon press secretary was saying, let's see, they updated their statement at one point to say, I love this, brother. Oh, gosh. Everyone at the Defense Department loves Jackie Robinson, as well as the Navajo Code Talkers, the Tuskegee Airmen, the Marines at Iwo Jima, as many others. We salute them for their strong and, in many cases, heroic service to our country. Full stop. We do not view or highlight them through the prism of immutable characteristics such as race, ethnicity, or sex. We do only by recognizing their patriotism and dedication to the warfighting mission, like every other American who has worn the uniform. DEI, discriminatory equity, Ideology does the opposite. It divides the force. It's more the same thing. But the whole idea of invoking Jackie Robinson and the Navajo code talkers, the Tuskegee Airmen, to try to bolster up their argument is just sacrilegious as far as certainly blasphemous.
If you're erasing the history, you're not teaching it, and then you're not promoting it. So it goes against their statement completely.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why movies, that relate to wars are popular because they're also a tool of education, right?
Yeah.
I think when I went to see Saving Private Ryan as an example, there were a lot of veterans. I was there on the first night that it aired at the theaters where I was at in Halifax, and there was a lot of veterans in the crowd, and a lot of them could not stand up at the end of that movie because they were in tears and they were, embarrassed by the fact that they were getting emotional about a movie. But minimizing the impact that these veterans had in whatever role it was, whether it was, a completely white airborne crew or a black, whatever the case is, when they are honored and they are bestowed some sort of historical meaning within a country's history, that should be sacred and forever.
Yep.
Not toyed with as a political tool, which is what's happening in this case.
Yeah.
And I think there's nothing constructive about this whatsoever, and hopefully somebody rectifies it down the road. But I think we can probably end this conversation there.
Yeah.
People know where we stand. We've said our piece.
Amen.
And I think there's a lot of good things to talk about in baseball. We had that. Did you get to see the Japan opening?
I No, I didn't get to see the opening. I was one of those people who woke up late and did go back and watch it, but I was there to critique what little I did the first game, and I said something that's on Blue Sky today. It's like, okay, I was excited to see Kyle Tucker come to bat because here he is, a newly minute Cub, and fantastic. I'm seeing him coming up to bat, and they break away to show the Marquee Sports Network breaks away to show one of their staff in the stands talking to somebody who is serving beer in a unique way that we don't do in the United States. And I'm going, good heavens, people, let me see Kyle Tucker. Let me see him play in for his first game, professional baseball game with the Cubs. And it takes so little to get me going.
But Mark, you're right. You're on to something. Like the jerseys and hats and everything that were being sold, it was like 95% Dodgers gear. There was barely anything from the Cubs. Like, how does that happen? How does Major League Baseball allow that to happen? The skewed aspect of everything. You had also what I had to laugh about was the fries, right? At one moment there was something going on in the game, and it was like 15 minutes of the reporter showing the length of fries and how they were amazed. Oh, this is, and then she had to bring some up to the the announcers, and then we're talking about, oh yeah, everything's great, but I really liked our Baskin Robbins because that's American, but I don't like everything else that they had there.
Yeah. Let's show a little slight racism on
Yeah.
sundries and desserts. But the thing of it is, Matt, if that kind of imbecilic presentation of baseball is going on, if Rob gets the whole enchilada, is it going to be just as bad or worse? Oh,
The reporter was actually saying this fry tastes more like potato than what we have in the States. Like, what?
oh,
Watching baseball, they're talking about how a fry tastes like potato. What am I watching? Anyway,
I'm glad they crossed the Pacific to find that out.
yeah. But the games were okay. Ohtani had some success. I think a lot of the Japanese players had a really good showing, which is important when you're doing these events. If you can get some of the hometown crowd going and happy. There wasn't as many chances as you would see during a WBC or something like that. But Ohtani looked really good. Hit his first homer of the year. Kyle Tucker hit a double, like you mentioned him at the end of the second game, but didn't really amount to much. The Cubs come out of it, and I think we all would have predicted the way it turned out. They're down 0-2, and now everybody's saying the Dodgers are going to go 162 and 0. You
Hey,
mean, yeah, I don't know.
and they're doing it without Mookie
And without Freddie.
and without Freddie. Ribs. I don't know what all came. I haven't read any more than he initially had some rib issues.
Yeah.
But wow, gosh almighty. And think about it. Now that you've played in your first two games of the season,
Mm.
you still got spring training to go back to.
It's just funny.
Oh, you know what's interesting too? I was looking at the game, and it was the second game. I can't remember if it was the eighth or ninth inning when Shohei Ohtani's coming up to bat.
Mhm.
Bases were loaded. Or was it? No, they had already walked two people, I think, and they wound up walking Shohei. That's right, because the bases were loaded with that. And I thought, come on, dude. Either throw him something he can hit and memorialize this game, or just don't walk him.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not in the World Series. Like you're
Thank you.
putting on a show, right? Like and really you should be looking for the glory of striking him out in that situation and making yourself look better. But I think that's probably the manager's call more than the pitcher's in that case. Yeah. The the big and short of it is that, spring training is going on. There's a lot of injuries. Not as many as I think we've seen in some years. But I think the latest one that I saw was Jared Jones has an elbow issue now for the Pirates, and he's an important piece for an up and coming team,
Oh yeah.
but behind Paul Skeens. But every time that I see that, I keep going back to that 5-man rotation. At some point, teams have to realize, and I keep going back to it, Mark, when I look at it financially. I think they want it to happen that way because it costs them less money in the long run. The pitcher's broken, I don't have to pay him. I can walk away. The fans won't be angry. They
Yep.
understand he's broken. What am I going to do? And then they get to, use that pitcher or that arm up as long as they need while he's in arbitration or before that.
Yeah.
I think that's a problem that in the next CBA, if I was the players union, that is one thing I would address. Pitchers should have a reduced timeline to when they hit arbitration compared to hitters because they're at such an injury risk. So maybe you lower it for pitchers so that they get to their first arbitration year in their third year instead of their fourth, um, or something alike,
Yeah.
so that they get more recognition. Like a good example right now is Drew Rasmussen, right? Two Tommy Johns. He just signed a mini extension because they're trying to eat up the arbitration, and he's so afraid to throw because his arm might fall off. So he's like, well, I don't want to put the velocity on if I'm never going to get paid because if I get the third one, I'm pretty much done. My career is
Yeah.
over. Same thing with Shane McClanahan. He's in that exact same boat. So you're looking at guys that are walking on eggshells trying to throw a pitch at 98 miles an hour. I don't know. Like I look at the Rays and I'm hoping, like we've talked about the 6-man rotation. Nobody has said anything about it. I think there's still a chance Zach Littell will get dealt. There's a lot of teams looking for pitching, but I still hope that they're going to go with the 6-man rotation and eventually it'll become the norm in Major League Baseball. So we see the better pitchers develop long term instead of this continuous, turnover that never ends.
Well, you see what Craig Kimbrel signing up with a minor league contract, like a million or two. I don't know if he's hit 40 yet or not, but where you see all these old arms and they're failing because they've been throwing so much for so long. But
Hey, Kimbrel is young. Like he is not
is
even
he?
close to 40.
He's
Uh,
not. Ooh.
I think, hang on. And like when I was looking up his stats, I don't want to say recently, but within the last year or two, he's 36.
That's
So
ancient.
yeah, for a reliever, that's not that old. Like you've seen what John Schmaltz, a couple of other guys, Kenley Jansen is a bit older.
Yeah.
Anyways, all that to say that I always thought, you look at his statistics for Craig Kimbrel, they are in the range of making it to the Hall of Fame. If you compare him to Trevor Hoffman and a couple of other big relievers, Billy Wagner is another one. So he compares very well to those in the class. Mariano Rivera is just in his own world. But when you're looking at Craig Kimbrel, he's got 440 saves. He's got a career whip of 1 and an ERA of let's see, 2.59. over 809 innings.
Mm.
I mean, that is really, Billy Wagner. Let me see, how many did he have in terms of, just want to see, because he finished his career a little bit earlier, right? Um, and he had, when he retired, 422 saves. So Craig Kimbrel's already passed Billy Wagner in terms of saves. Billy Wagner had exactly one whip, same as Craig Kimbrel, and they have a very similar ERA. So Craig Kimbrel right now is a Hall of Famer begging for a job.
Yeah, yeah, that's sad.
It's weird, right? It sucks. But I think the odd nature of how he pitches and how he does things and the quirky aspects of it make it a really hard task for pitching coaches to reinvent how he does things. So I think that's a little bit of what has come to play is that people, I think, can read his pitches a lot better than they used to, and trying to reinvent him at this point is a little bit harder to do. Maybe he figures it out again, but I think the right situation, the right team could also. I'll give you an example. I think the Texas Rangers are a team that if they're going to make it far, need to find people for the back end of their pen, and he would look good with the Texas Rangers, and somebody like Bruce Bochy would know how to use him in the best ways that would maximize the effectiveness of Craig Kimbrel and maybe get his moxie back even. So it's just an example.
We're talking about pitchers here for a moment and ones that are 35 years old. And I'm going to segue into me going to my first spring training game in a few weeks, actually a few years. Went and saw the Detroit Tigers and saw the Pittsburgh Pirates in Lakeland.
Mhm.
And the first inning there, I'm starting to see names and hear names. I'm like, is this a Yankees game? IKF. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Gleyber Torres. Okay. Tommy Kahnle, 35-year-old pitcher. He's with Detroit and see it. Gleyber's with Detroit.
Mhm.
IKF, I believe, is with the Pirates. And I'm like, did I go to the wrong stadium? Maybe I need to be over to the George Steinbrenner Stadium. But it was amazing to see how talent moves around, and certainly the Yankees. But a 35-year-old pitcher, nonetheless, coming back to Tommy Kahnle. So
Yeah, the Tigers are a lot of people's choice for a team that might surprise this year or really push the ante up a little bit. They have an X-ray with them as well, who's on the injured list, Alex Cobb. Uh,
ooh,
and they also picked up Jose Urquidy from the Astros, who's like he just strengthens the back end of their rotation if ever he gets healthy again. But I like what they've done. I think as much as you can pick on Gleyber Torres's defense, he's going to be a bat that gives them, a steady, boost within, to just to lengthen it. Because I think the Tigers have the core pieces. What they need is to basically fill a lot of the blanks and a lot of that experience. I mean, if you've played in Yankee Stadium and you've taken the fan abuse and press abuse there for years and years and years, it's easy to go to Detroit and say, you know what, we're one of the boys. And then, they have an excellent manager and an up and coming team. I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. If ever Javier Baez can actually find his game again, like
wow.
his moxie, it would take that team to another level. I always thought this offseason that Willie Adames would have been a great signing for them, just to solidify a shortstop or even third base longer term. But yeah, I like their team. I think they're a really dangerous team this year.
Wow. Well, it was good. Like I said, I knew spring training's coming to a close.
Mhm.
And in the last few weeks of spring training, we got two games that count toward the regular season. And let's talk it earlier. So next Tuesday is the
Mhm.
last spring training game. And then Thursday, March 27th, is opening day. And I'm like, really? One, I can't believe it's here almost. But the two, I've forgotten how close they are back to back. The last day of spring training, virtually butting up to opening day.
Yeah. It's an exciting time because I know if you're a nerd like me and you've got a lot of prospects in the game, you kind of want to know where they're getting assigned, who's getting
Yeah.
promoted, who's starting where. how do those franchises look? Because it tells you a lot about what the franchise is thinking at that point. Good example would be like Trey Morgan. If they feel Trey Morgan is really advanced and can take on AAA, that would be a big event. Or Yaniel Corret, I think, who's currently seems to be assigned to Durham for now until they finalize all the teams. If he was to start at that level, it puts him all of a sudden in a conversation to be one of the first call-ups to the Rays because he's that close. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Opening day is always great. I love it. I'm hoping politics stays clear of opening day and lets us enjoy it. And then the other thing that I love to hear about opening day, and I wish they promoted it more. Like if MLB promoted themselves the same way the NFL does and did more promotions on the food, right? Opening day, here's the new food we have. This is what we're offering. We've got this 15-pound barbecue platter. I don't know, whatever it is, right? Like have fun with it. Like make it an event that people want to go to because of the food and the celebrations that you have, and the feeling. And what I always loved about opening day was listening to the crowds and talking to the crowd, like people in the crowd. And it's a family event. It's a friends event, right? You go there, you talk to people, you get the mix, and there's always that little murmur going on in the crowd, right? When it's a good crowd and there's a lot of people. And being from Montreal, we didn't have all those crowds consistently. So when they were there for opening day, you enjoyed them that much more. But yeah, even when the mics are on, when you're watching it on TV, you can also hear it, a little buzz in the air and a little bit more electricity. But yeah, I'm hoping that it's going to be a really fun opening day. Shane McClanahan's going to be the starter for the Rays. And you hope for that big old W, but as long as he comes off the mound healthy, I think it'll be a productive day for him overall. So I don't know, like what are your predictions for opening day and onwards, in terms of the AL East, if you were to look at it from what you know today and what you've seen, through the spring training?
Last year, I had higher hopes for the Orioles,
Mhm.
and those have been diminished. I think after our conversations, like with Nat Gordo and talking about the Red Sox, I see them as really going to be strong. I think Alex Cora's got a good team there, and they're going to be pushing right along. If you ask me after that, Yankees, there's a big question mark because of all the injuries and what will Brian Cashman do.
Mhm.
Now, I mean, injuries are a question mark with every team, but I don't know how they're going to be able to hold up. But if I had to put them down on the list, I'd say, okay, let's go ahead. We'd say, it's wishful thinking. I know. We'd put Red Sox, Rays, Orioles, Yankees, Jays.
That's exactly how I have them. And again, there's a lot of moves that can be made to fix that or change it or whatever, but preseason, before opening day, it's exactly the order I have them. You can argue wins and losses, totals. I think all of the AL East will be strong as per usual. I don't expect any of them to be below 76 wins,
Yeah.
and I don't expect any of them to run away with it either. Unless there's a few prospects in the Red Sox camp that can actually break out and really like take hold of things. That could take the Red Sox to run away with it a little bit. But I think the Rays will keep up with them pretty well and a lot better than what people think. What I've seen so far this spring for the Rays is just the depth and the steady quality of players that they have throughout, whatever position, whatever um, area of the game you want to focus on. The Rays have like 4 or 5 options, 4 or 5 options, 4 or 5 options, and they underperformed last year. I know we spoke about this a lot. When you don't have all of your left-handed bats for 2 months of the season and you start off that way, that's a huge thing to have to overcome. Like with the game being the way it is right now, with 80% of pitchers being right-handed, like it's a lot to live through. I think the Rays need more credit, to have lived through that last year. They also banked on a lot of their veterans and took care of them. Like giving that little extension to Yandy, that's a pat on the back.
Oh, yeah.
That's a little security for him to not have to worry about. And he gets to focus on the season, knowing his, next season is secure wherever it ends up being. that helps. They took care of Drew Rasmussen the same way. They took care of Brandon Lau. They picked up the option. There's no lingering questions this year aside from the stadium, and and we don't get into that aspect of it.
Oh, good Lord.
But
Yes.
I think, if you watch the games like I did, Chandler Simpson is an electric talent. Carson Williams, same thing. Just you can tell they're oozing talent and they are chomping at the bit to earn their way to the Rays. Those two guys, when you're looking at the way the roster is made up, with Junior Caminero at third, Yandy Diaz, Brandon Lau, and then you look at the rest of the outfield. If you add those two guys in season to the team, you've got a brand new momentum to kind of take them to that next level defensively and offensively. So I think Kevin Cash is going to have a lot of fun making up lineups this year. He's going to see a lot of electricity on the bases, and I think the guys that shone a lot in the spring training are giving us a lot to look forward to overall. And I so wish that spring training was more about that, about relishing it. So I think one thing you wanted to talk about was that prospects game
Yep.
between the Red Sox and the Rays. Did you watch it?
I did not, be honest with you. I have not. I was just going over some of my notes with it.
Mm.
And I did see, was it Chandler Simpson? And sounded like he was just a speed demon, if I read correctly, the notes.
Yeah. No, it was a great game. The Rays, like they were up against the Red Sox, which let's face it, they're like you're talking two of the best three systems in Major League Baseball, and they're just oozing with talent on both sides. What I think you saw a little bit more was that the Rays pitching is probably going to outshine all other minor league pitching when it comes to overall, which is what they addressed at the trade deadline last year, right? That a lot of people were angry that the Rays kind of mini sold, right? They sent
Yeah.
Randy Arozarena out. But that was the focus, was to strengthen the pitching group that would go along with the great position players they drafted from 2021 onwards, so that they would come in together and kind of push together in waves of talent. And it was a great job because holding back the Red Sox prospects is not easy to do.
Nope.
And it also showed that the Rays have a lot of different ways of scoring runs now because of their speed and because they're really focusing on contact and putting the ball in play. And actually, I don't want to call it small ball because they do want guys to hit the ball hard,
Yep.
but they're focused on the fundamentals of the game that were more of the focus in the 80s and 70s, which is great to see because I think you need to balance things out, right? You can have sluggers like Xavier Isaac and others coming up, but unless you have a well-rounded lineup that have different tools, you're still going to be vulnerable. And that's what I always saw with the Yankees. Because you're filled with bombers, you're not versatile enough. And it was the same thing with the Red Sox last year. Their athleticism wasn't the level it needed to be for them to dominate. And I think that's why those prospects they have now are so enticing to them because they are more athletic. So that prospects game showed us all of that. It showed us, the really great talents that the Red Sox have coming up and Roman Anthony and the rest of them. And it showed what the Rays have. And those two are going to butt heads, I think, for the next 3 to 5 years. The Jays, you can just forget about it. I know they're offering, supposedly, they're going to offer Vladdy a contract. They've got what, a week and a bit now? And they're talking somewhere between 550 and 600 million.
I thought he wasn't going to do anything till after the season or before the
Opening day is
opening day. Is that his deadline?
yeah. So they're allowed to make offers. I still don't hear any, resolved things. So I don't know what else they're putting in there, if they're trying to defer half of it or whatever it is. But he hasn't signed pen to paper yet. So we'll see if that happens. But even so, the team around him just isn't there.
No.
It's not conducive to a prolonged winning, team. I do like Anders Jimenez. I think he'll do well for them, but their system's just so weak. Anytime they have injuries, they're scratching and clawing to find somebody able to step in. But yeah, so 2025, Mark, is that the year the Rays win this World Series? Is
Oh
feel?
gosh. With
Can
all
you
the
imagine? Hang on, just hear me out for a sec. on Steinbrenner Field, hoisting the piece of metal, as proclaimed by Rob Manfred, is Shane McClanahan with a brand new left arm. You know, what would that feel like? What would it do? How would they spin it in Yankee land that they allowed this to happen? You know, on Yankee soil, the Rays win the championship in Tampa.
Oh, I had all these crazy images of people tearing down the Yankee banners that are probably been hidden. You know, if that was the case, the crowd would just be outrageous. You know, the Rays, they would pour into the street. They'd find themselves flowing over into the Ray James Stadium, and they would have one of the largest party ever. They'd have the Yingling Bush folks bringing all the booze in. I mean, I wasn't Molson, but hey, you know, that they would bring that.
If that were to happen, does it make it sacred ground enough for them to say, we're building a stadium here? Right?
Damn it, yes.
Why not? It's good. It'll have the right. It'll have the. We've already won here. So I know it's far-fetched, but I think, you know, when you look at the Rays story, it would be a really interesting book ending to have it say, the final piece that got us the stadium deal in Tampa was winning the World Series in a Yankees stadium.
Oh man, I don't think I ever wanted the World Series more for the Rays than now after you set it up for me like that. Whoa.
Putting it to a good ending after all the doom and gloom, Mark.
Oh yeah.
It's important to laugh a little.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It is crazy. It's fun. And I want to see how much tickets cost for World Series at George Steinbrenner Field.
Oh, maybe they'll sell eggs in little golden case.
All right, brother. Wow, Matt. I can't think of anything else. I think that was a good camper, my friend.
I think so too. Hope you enjoy your last few games of spring training, and I want to hope that all those predictions I made earlier in the show are wrong, and that everybody lives through all the hot dogs and gravy that they're going to put on their fries for the opening day. And hopefully they get to enjoy some good fireworks and high scoring games and a lot of thrills. Like that, baseball should be fun, should be happy, and enjoy it, because there's so many things to not enjoy in the world. Baseball is not one of them.
That's right. All right. Well, I'm going to find my 42 button to get that on and be ready for opening day, and we'll get cracking, my friend.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Thank you all for joining Matt and I here today once again on Baseball Biz on Deck and finding the fun in baseball. Sometimes it's a little more difficult times than others, but man, I did like the way we closed out today. So thank you again for that, Matt.
You're welcome.
All right.
Just a reminder, you can find Matt at matgermain.bsky social. That's at mattgermain.bsky.social, or Mark at baseballbizondeck.bsky.social. You may also find Baseball Biz on Deck on iHeart, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and at baseballbizondeck.com. Special thanks to XTakeRUX for the music, Rocking Forward.